Alright, and everyone, welcome back to the latest episode of the Monarchs Tribunal. Now, today, for the first time coming on the show, I have Professor Noctis.
Hey, how you doing?
I did say that right, did I?
Yeah, that's right. Professor Noctis, or Prof Noctis, either way.
We're going to be talking about today Dragon Quest XI.
Dragon Quest XI, I'm excited.
How familiar were you with Dragon Quest when you actually played this one?
So I played Dragon Quest XI at the request of my best friend growing up, Ben. So he and I game together all the time and stuff, and usually we like the same games. And so he played 11, had an amazing time with it, and actually bought me a copy for a birthday or Christmas or something like that. And so before that, I had played, I think I'd rented the first one, and I had tried. Is it the seventh one? It may have been the seventh one, I think. Um, so really not very familiar at all. I'd kind of kept up with it like as a series that's adjacent to Final Fantasy, which is kind of like my bread and butter, but it really had not been one that captured me until 11.
Now, when I'd went into it, I'd missed out on the Dragon Quest thing for years. I didn't
Yeah.
play my first one until 8 on the PS2.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It came as like a demo for a different game. I don't remember what that game was.
Seriously, but don't you miss demos, right? Because like I never would have played a game like Dragon Quest 8 unless there was a demo disc.
But I got around to playing a bunch of the other remakes that were coming out on like the DS. So like I don't have the same nostalgia factor for Dragon Quest a lot of people did. It sounds like you're in a similar boat to me there.
I really don't, but I'm growing for it. And when they announced the Dragon Quest HD 2D remakes of 1, 2, and 3, or 3 and then 1 and 2, oh my gosh, I lost my mind. I was really, really excited for that.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I've never really been that interested in picking up the first 3 games prior to that announcement. But as soon as they did it, I'm like, huh.
Yeah. You give me a cool style that looks relevant, I'm in. Yeah.
But yeah, if I remember right, when I reached out to you to talk to this, I think you were saying like you really enjoyed 11 a lot.
I really did. It is, yeah, we'll certainly get into that, but I enjoyed my time with 11 so much.
Now, for me, I walked away thinking it was just an okay game.
Okay. All right. What were your complaints with it? Because I may share them. I just maybe have overcome them. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Now, I think a little bit got me overhyped because a lot of those reviews when this game came out were virtually perfect scores. Like, almost across the board. It was weird.
Right.
I want to say, even compared to other Dragon Quest games I played, the combat could feel a bit slow and repetitive sometimes.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. I like turn-based games for the most part. Not Baldur's Gate 3. That's a whole other thing. I'm struggling. But Dragon Quest 11, it hybridizes what I loved about the turn-based stuff with some interesting new mechanics. It was a bit slow in the middle for me. The battle system started to wear on, but then I got some new abilities and techniques, and that seemed to spice it up toward the end for me.
I'm with you. I really like turn-based.
Mm.
Like, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. Like, we both showed up on Bill's show, so...
Right.
It's one of those things that's a little... I want to say it's... grindy?
Grindy is exactly the word that I would use, actually. Yes.
Which, it's one of those things that normally doesn't turn me off of a game. Like, I don't know if you've played Digimon World 2.
I have not.
It's a grind game that puts Dragon Quest to shame.
Okay, well, there's one that's more grindy out there.
But I love that game for reasons I can't explain to you, so typically grinding doesn't really put me off.
What do you think it was about this one, then?
I can tell you at times it's... when you discover a few odd tricks, things become weirdly easy for a Dragon Quest. Like the moment you realize you can just one-shot slimes consistently with Eric.
Yes, I did that consistently. And it really did become a little bit of a chore, like, okay, another random battle. Oh, okay, let's go.
Some of the battles just felt like, at least the random ones, they felt like they went on longer than they should.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with About what was your play count, like hour-wise?
Oh god, I don't even know.
Yeah, mine was about 150, 160, and I did not do all the side
Yeah.
quests.
I did almost everything.
Really? Okay, I just did not. Like, it's funny, people sometimes like say, Prof, you're such a completionist. I'm like, I am not. But if I complete something, you better believe I love that game. Like that, it's a special game that makes me complete it like that. But Dragon Quest XI, I did the side quests I was interested in. Everything else I allowed to go on the wayside.
Like, I'm not gonna say the combat's bad at all. Like, I
Oh
did
no.
still find myself having fun the vast majority of that playtime. That's why I said I do still like the game.
Okay, okay.
I think it kind of comes down to it's not the most engaging combat even of Dragon Quest and systems.
Hmm.
So when you hit that really long playtime, because I'm pretty sure I'm up there with you with over 100 hours it took me to
Yeah.
beat it.
Well, if you beat it, then I assume over 100 hours because that game is long. It's got like two or three false endings. Felt like The Last of Us 2.
I think that might be what dragged the combat down for me. Is I don't think the game needed to be that long.
It needed a good editor, is what I told some people. It's like somebody could have edited out a couple of these things, sequences, or expedited them in a way that didn't make you feel like it was overstaying its welcome. And that was like, I remember it must have been like hour 80 that I got a new character. I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, that is how long that last guy joins up.
It's like, yay, but also like, how much longer? Little did I know about, I was halfway through the game. So-
Like, I like the customization system in the game
right.
to a degree. There are some characters where they have like tree paths you can go down where it's obviously not good. It gives you this weird sensation of some somewhat just trap choices, and I hate that.
Okay, okay. So like give me a Final Fantasy example of a game that does that well or poorly.
I'd say 5 was largely good at doing it well, but
Okay.
there are still jobs in that game that you're like, this,
Right.
why? Why am I using the blue mage?
So do you prefer that over say Final Fantasy 6 where the jobs are pretty set? You can customize spells and stuff.
I will say I love 6 more than Dragon Quest 11.
Yeah. Well, agreed.
But
I love Final Fantasy 6. Maybe the best game of all time in my opinion. But
it's up
at
there.
least one of them. At least one of them, yeah. It's in the conversation, and I don't necessarily think that Dragon Quest XI is in the conversation.
I do love a good customization system. Like Xenosaga
Yeah.
Episode 3, I thought did a really good job with it.
Oh man. Okay, so that's a game I've got to go back to. I'm about 50 hours into it, and I understand that's another long one.
Oh, especially since you got to play all 3 Xenosagas to get the
I
full story. And
know.
it's
I did 1 and 2. Oh wait, you're talking about Xenosaga.
yeah, Saga, not
not.
Xenoblade, or not.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
Xenoblade
Okay, well,
Chronicles.
but another banger series, Xenosaga. I played 1 and 2, but not 3. Okay, so
Two's a little
I've gotta
rough
go
to
back
get
and-
through. I'm not gonna lie.
And I think that's
But
why I didn't pick up 3, to be honest.
oh, 3 is the best one.
Is okay. Well,
Like it's a different again. They completely
break
changed
out
up
the
the
emulator.
combat system
yeah.
because of
Okay.
course they kept doing that in that game
Yeah,
because
you
of the
know.
production nightmare.
Yeah. It really seems like they could have kept on going, but I guess with the cool reception of 2, they really wanted to change some things up. I don't know. I don't know much about that game.
Yeah, it's interesting, but that's a
Yeah,
long topic for another
That's a
day.
whole other deal, yeah.
But yeah, 3 essentially though it had a thing where each character had 2 different skill paths you could level down, and they'd start unlocking additional little pockets as well. It was interesting. So
Yeah,
I
that's
like
cool.
being able to customize. I just want to know all the choices you're giving me aren't just bad.
Right, right. Isn't that the worst though, when you are given some choices and it's like, oh gosh, did this really have to be like a quote level up moment?
Yeah.
I feel like there's something about a game's kind of laid path respecting or disrespecting your time. And there were times in Dragon Quest XI that I was like, this upgrade did not feel worth my time and effort, but maybe the next one will. The battle system was not what was compelling to me about Dragon Quest XI. I've said on a couple shows, I've said on stream a few times that I will play the most mediocre and mundane gameplay system in order to get to a good story. I've said that time and time again, and it's being tested with everything in me right now with a few of the games that I'm playing. But like that's me, right?
I think a good story can make up for a lot, but I still need a combat system that's at least enjoyable enough.
Okay. Well, if you're gonna spend 300 hours in a game or
Yeah.
something, it better be. It needs to be.
That said, I think that's kind of where Dragon Quest XI fell for me, just in
Yeah.
terms of the mechanics. It's enjoyable enough.
Yeah, enjoyable enough. That's fair. That's fair with that battle system.
That said, it is a Dragon Quest system,
Hmm.
so there's not a whole lot to really talk about here that people aren't kind of already gonna know. It plays
Yeah.
like Dragon Quest.
It plays like Dragon Quest. And for a Dragon Quest fan, more Dragon Quest is not a bad
Yeah.
thing, you know?
It's got its nice little tweaks. Like I like that you have the pep up abilities and that you can actually use them almost
Yeah.
like dual techs, which I think more games need dual techs.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And that was something that really struck me about this game. It really harkened back to Chrono Trigger in a lot of ways. And Chrono Trigger, another one of my like best of all time. This reinvented in a lot of ways and reemerged that battle system. Not to a T by any means. It put the Dragon Quest spin on it, but there were some elements I was like, oh, this is great. And then of course the cast of characters. But yeah, I think that nostalgia for Chrono Trigger made me very fond of Dragon Quest XI immediately.
And of course, Toriyama style
Mm,
designs.
absolutely. Right. Did you grow up on those designs and just loving that style?
Oh yeah, like I watched
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z way back in the
Did you?
day.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Chrono
I
Trigger.
remember it was on and stuff, but like I did not know the connection between Chrono Trigger and Dragon Ball Z till many years later. So it was really exciting and refreshing when I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got him to do that. That's so cool.
Oh, it's weird when you realize what some of those Square Enix
Uh,
artists did. Like Amano was the lead artist for the Vampire Hunter D movies.
oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. Well,
Oh my gosh, what a multifaceted guy.
yeah. But yes, one thing I will say about Dragon Quest in general, there has been one big issue with that going 3D, and that is hunting mini medals.
Ooh, the hunting mini medals. Yeah, that was a different. It did create a different concept. Did you like it or not?
I'm
No.
not too fond of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine when you have the top down, like, 2D view, but now
Yeah.
you've got the 3D thing, you're having to rotate the camera around just to see any stupid little thing you've missed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes mini metal hunting so much worse.
I wonder how developers have struggled with that. The 3D space, the camera, and making it intuitive, but not obvious, right?
Yeah.
Like that's got to be a huge challenge for devs.
I really think there's just some things that don't translate well into the 3D environment that people used to get away with.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like
I
that
can
mini
see
metal
that.
thing's one of them. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever played the Rune Factory games or any of the Story of Seasons or Harvest Moon farming games.
I've played the farming games, yeah. Yeah, and that with that scope of view, point of view, you're definitely able to see things a little bit more clearly. It is more intuitive at that
Yeah,
point, but
the 3D
yeah.
Harvest Moon they did with, or not Harvest Moon, Rune Factory 5. The controls aren't quite as precise as you'd like when you're having to precisely set
Mm,
squares and farm and all that.
yeah.
So the full 3D I don't think works as well for your farming sims.
No, probably not. Are you a big fan of farming sims?
Sometimes, like those original Harvest Moon games before
Yeah.
the copyright shenanigans, and they had to change from Harvest Moon to Story of Seasons.
Oh, sure. Now the big question was, were you a Farmville guy?
Oh
The
no.
People's Harvest Moon.
No. I hate Farmville.
Man, me too. But everybody, I remember everybody in my life was like, "Have you played Farmville?" And I was getting all these Facebook notifications like, "Get away from me, fake gamers."
Right there with him. But yes, while I think Dragon Quest 8 overall, or not 8, 11 does look good,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think initially being in 3D created issues because of the mini medals. And I wasn't going to miss out on the mini medals. I don't know why that's one of the things I insisted I was going to find them.
Yeah, so like I don't share that complaint, but I also did not care about the mini map at all. So like maybe that's a design
Yeah.
flaw, but for me, like I don't know, this is a problem that I run into with a lot of my students actually. Like they'll say things like, "Gosh, these side quests are so bad," and I'm like, brother, they're side quests. Okay. Like restrain yourself. And then I always get the response. Like, and I do think that this is more indicative of like the time and stuff. It's like I can't leave things unfinished. Like that little dot or that little knowing that there's a trophy out there, I've got to go and do it. And I do think that there's some like psychological, emotional mood regulation that has to happen in order to be like, no, I'm not doing that. Let me give you, for instance, last night I'm playing Lies of P, okay? Like a 9 hour stream, like unexpectedly because the game would not. I couldn't be the final boss. It took me 87 times. Okay, like it was insane. But I was determined that it was going to be the end. Now, here's the thing: people in my chat were saying things like, Prof, you got to go back and you got to do the side quest. Prof, you got to get the second ending. Prof, there's so many things that you missed. And I was like, I do not care. YouTube is on there. I liked this game. I am done with it. And it is over. And they were like, no. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Your boy's got a life to live. Somebody told me I was going to die one day. And I'm going to respect that. So.
Look, it took me so long to beat that last boss with Liza P too.
Mhm.
It was rough.
Yeah, I thought that Luxatia or whatever was bad, like the third to last boss. She stomped me like the last time I streamed Tuesday, I guess, or a couple days ago. But then this final boss, oh man, what a prelude to that one, because that was lies of purgatory. I was never getting out of there. It was bad.
I mean, it's a Souls-like game, so
Yeah, and I love
I expected
Souls-like
it.
games. Somebody said, "Oh man, if you think this is bad, you're never gonna get through Shadow of the Erd Tree." And I'm gonna be real honest with you. Like, I did not have the problems with Elden Ring that I have with Lies of P. Okay, I know that we're talking Dragon Quest 11, but like, look, just a side tangent. Like, something about the build and like you were saying earlier, the customization, the ability to choose your own. I couldn't quite get my comfort level in Lies of P the way that I did in Elden Ring. And I think that that's kind of the case with like Dragon Quest 11 as well. The customization, like you were saying, I didn't feel like I really had made the character fully optimized. Because of that, I feel like the battles were going on a little too long. I felt like it was just extending my experience, and it probably diminished a little bit of the experience for me.
That said, since again, combat's not really too deep, and I
Yeah.
think everyone kind of understands Dragon Quest combat at this point.
Yeah.
I do agree that it's usually easy to skip a lot of the side stuff for me. I don't know what it is
Yeah.
about mini metal specifically that drives me up the
That was
wall.
that was hey, we all have our
But yeah,
kryptonite, and apparently mini metals are one of
yeah.
yours.
That said, I guess we talk about the actual story of Dragon
Yeah.
Quest XI. Overall, how did you feel about this story?
So I love the landing. I love how it sticks the landing in my opinion. It does some really cool things. Now, there's a lot that happens in this game. And like I said, what 180 hours, 150, whatever it was, it just kept going. It fooled me twice into thinking I had beaten it. And then it was like, but now there's a bigger devil or a bigger bad that you have to go and face. And To me, that was it was getting a little long in the tooth. I feel like this game almost I would have appreciated the trilogy uh, treatment for it, to be honest. But length aside, I was pretty engaged for the most part. I think that how do you want to treat this as far as like spoilers are concerned? Are we like full on, full go, or
I'll say let's wait until closer to the end for
sounds
spoilers,
good? Okay,
because
just want to make
inevitably we're
sure.
gonna need to talk about them.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
for people
for
who
sure.
still haven't gotten to this somehow,
Well,
I'll leave a little to them.
this game, what I like about the story is that it really does set up your basic hero's journey, and then it subverts it a little bit. You start out with your ordinary world. You start with a catalytic dilemma. You build some friends and some mentors, and then you kind of go through this quest, this dragon quest, if you will. And then there comes a point where it recycles and reloops, and this happens maybe two or three times in the game, similar to is that similar to in some ways like Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger to a degree there, where it's like you're constantly in this cycle of there's a new big bad, and it's almost like you're playing through multiple seasons of Dragon Ball, right? You're playing through multiple seasons where it's like, okay, now this is the big
Yeah.
bad, and now we're moving to this region. I liked that. I feel like I probably got burnt out on it about halfway through, and then it comes back. So I don't know. What was your experience with it?
I largely felt like 70% of it fell flat.
Fell flat.
Now, I'm gonna describe this by first saying my favorite character in this game is Eric.
Okay, Eric is an
Easy.
all-timer. He's so good.
Said the reason he became my favorite is, or my favorite, that he became my favorite is he kind of acted as a spirit animal for me in this game. Like a little bit in the story, you're looking for something called the Sacred Bow.
Uh-huh.
I think it is the tree branch thing. You go to a town, it's like, oh, the guy who has it took off on a ship. But we're gonna have this festival going on, so the port's closed down. At this point, you already know there's some kind of world-ending threat. Every single member of your party, like, oh, guess we gotta enjoy the festival. Can't go after the bow. Eric's like, what's wrong with you people? The world's about to end. Everyone just screws off. And he's like, all right, we're going to talk to the mayor to try to get out of here. Now, inevitably, you can't. But he's the only guy who's like, maybe saving the world's more important right now, guys. Anybody?
Yeah.
This happens multiple times up until Jade and I forget the other guy's name join you.
Rab.
Rab, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm like, I hate all of my party members right now. Why are you all here? You clearly
Yeah.
don't care.
Listen, sometimes you just want to party at the festival, okay?
The world's about to end.
Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, right? Like that's the ethos of Dragon Quest 11.
They just kept frustrating me at every turn for so long.
Eric is such a great common sense character. I'll say, and I felt like you're right. Like there's a kinship with Eric, and maybe that's like by design. I'm always curious what the developers are thinking when they're putting in some dialogue, and it's like, oh, is this character supposed to be me right now? Because that's how I feel.
This thing, I don't know if that was the intention with Eric.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're supposed to be sitting there like I was, thinking everyone's an idiot.
Sometimes I wonder. I have been in Quest, and I'm like, they're trolling me right now. The devs they dared me to be a completionist on this, and they are winning their battle. I am, oof.
I was also back and forth on liking Sylvando.
Okay, yeah, Sylvando's a really enigmatic character for me, because it's like, I like most of what they're doing with Sylvando, but sometimes the hyperbole of Sylvando just was a little grating.
He gives
But
you
as
the
a
impression
character,
the whole time, like, there's something going on here, like he has some idea of something that's happening.
yeah.
Nope, not at all. He's just
Yeah,
kind of
you
there for the
really
ride.
yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, he conveys himself, or the game conveys him as having a much greater, deeper knowledge. But, by the end, I mean, he's a trustworthy companion. He doesn't really have a dark side. He's got a traumatic-ish backstory with his dad, but that's about it. But Sylvando's a good hang still, so I'm like, okay, like, come on. Like, Andrew, pretty useful a lot of times in battle.
I actually never found him too useful for the most part. Like he's got a
Did you
couple good
not?
abilities early on.
See, I liked his specific buffing
Yeah.
ability of others. Like that, I used buffs in this game more than I
Yeah.
did do in most games. But Sylvando, at least in my recollection, I really liked. I would like tag him in and then out with him.
Like that's one it's possible I just didn't piece together how to use them.
Mm-mm.
That happens with a lot of games. Like sometimes you'll have a character you're just like I don't know what to do with you. But then you find
Yeah,
out someone else has just completely broken them somehow.
yeah. Well, I've got this running thesis that like when it comes to games like this, the characters that you make early connections with are your ride or die until the end. In FF7, it's the Quartet. Like that's those four: Cloud, Barrett, Tifa, Aerith. I'm gonna go with them, and then the others like, oh, I also like you, but these are my G's, right? Like I'm hanging out with them. Um,
See, with
and
seven, I
that's
switched right over to Sid because I immediately love that guy.
Now I love Sid. Don't get me wrong. Like all of those characters are phenomenal. For me though, with Dragon Quest XI, that was something that I struggled with. Because you've got the Luminary, and then you've got Eric. Eric was always in my party because he was my first friend, and I am loyal to a fault. But then I would bring in Sylvando because I met him shortly thereafter, and they really did make up like my beginning three. And so like even if Sylvando wasn't hyper useful all the time, I had a weird loyalty for this fictitious character. And I was like, I've got to bring him along because he liked me early.
See, I generally switched immediately over to Robin Jade.
Yeah.
Those two
Well,
and
Jade
Eric.
was a powerhouse. Like she was so good. And breathed life into the battle system again, for me because like it was just different with her in it. Really, really love Jade and her character.
Oh yeah, her and Eric are my two favorites. I
Yeah,
love those two.
yeah. I really think that they broke the bank playing around with Eric and stuff. Like he was such a great and well-rounded character, beginning to end. I mean, everything about him was great.
I was kind of disappointed, like when you get like like not the second. Well, yeah, maybe like the second X, and even to a degree the third. The extra character bits you get with all of them. Like
Oh
I love
yeah.
Jade, but the whole casino thing with her just felt underwhelming.
Yeah, that was weird. And again, that's why I keep going back to like there's like multiple stories in this game. Multiple like it's a trilogy, it
Yeah.
feels like. And it's like that wasn't a part of the game where I was like, okay, well, I guess they're mixing this character up now in just a new little way. But I don't know if that was fresh enough for me, to be honest. Still good, but I
Like that whole act where you're reclaiming all of your characters, just
yeah, and
tracking them down was just. I felt like I was retreading too much. The additional story bits for most of them just
mm,
weren't that good.
well, so Final Fantasy VI, one of the greatest games of all time, does something very similar, right? What do you think's the difference there? Because I don't find myself kind of grinding through the
Yeah.
story in six when I'm recollecting my friends. So what's the difference there?
I will say with six, it has a lot to do with theming. Like in the case of
Theming.
Dragon in six, why it worked is this is going to be completely off tangent from Dragon Quest XI for a minute here, but
Okay.
I would say one of the strongest themes you get in FF6 is
Mm,
hope.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why, even though like Kefka's not the antagonist for the first half of six,
Yeah.
he works much better as a foil. Because what does he do that you'd never see someone like Estelle do? He
Right.
ends the world. He reduces
Right.
everything to the most extreme form of hopelessness you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Every friend you have is gone. Just everything you've been fighting for is gone. Like, beating Kefka isn't bringing everything back.
Yeah.
Yet despite all of that, with how much you've lost, alone on this little island, you find that little strand of hope you just grab onto. And you're
Yeah.
fighting back from this, like, brink of absolute nothingness.
Yeah.
That makes everything work in Six's second half so well.
In Dragon Quest XI, there is a moment that feels like that. You know, with Mordegon taking the Sword of Light and plunging it into the heart of Yggdrasil, you go into a dark world sort of moment where formerly happily bustling cities are now fortified defense outposts. So it does have that same sort of mindset, but did you feel like that was too much of a turn? Because I mean, there is hope in the first half of Final Fantasy VI as a primary theme. Did you feel like they didn't build up to that enough in Dragon Quest XI? What was?
Yeah, because, like, there was never really a theme of Dragon Quest XI. Like, it just kind of felt like, well, we just kind of need to split up the party to drag this out a bit more.
Okay, so
Like,
okay, interesting.
I do kind of like that you end up fighting with that one guard guy.
Oh, he
Minor
was
spoilers.
awesome. Yeah.
Just because, he's been your adversary for so long.
Yeah.
You get that moment where he realizes, oh, I've been duped, and he's the one that ends up helping you. I did kind of like that touch. But there's, like, no fear all of your other party members were dead and gone. You kind of knew they were out there. So I wasn't really feeling hopeless.
Yeah, like you really kind of just knew they're okay. We just got to go get them now. Okay.
It just kind of felt like it was dragging it out unnecessarily. Like, I don't really get why they had to break up the party to this degree right here.
Yeah.
So it just felt like some additional busy work.
Well, I think that goes to one of my complaints with the story as well. Like I said, this would have been a great ending of part one of a trilogy, or even a 1-2 punch game. But the fact that I've already put in, and maybe the problem was me, like, I don't know, I put in about 60, 70 hours at this point of the game. And then I'm going to put in about the same after this point of the game. And that's what I mean when I say, like, it does the hero cycle multiple times. At some point, like, I feel like we don't have to keep cycling this story. We can just tell one version of it and end. And I don't know, like, that was not, I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed when I found out that wasn't the ending, because I was geared up for the ending. At that moment. And like, did you feel faked out by that? Like, I don't know. Like, I was like, there's more?
When you get to the tree,
Yeah.
no. Just because I swear I remember seeing the skill tree. I'm like, there's stuff that's still locked here.
Okay.
There's no way this game's ending right now.
Yeah. I just figured I didn't do it all. And so I was like, I was ending pretty normally. The skill tree will be unfilled. But nope.
Yeah, then, he does the thing with the stabby of the tree heart.
Yes.
Everyone gets split, but then you start unlocking the additional stuff.
Yeah.
So all right, now we're gearing up to the end.
Yeah.
And then it gets me. It almost broke my heart, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to do another act.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I was, to be honest. Then I ended up loving the end. Like, I really did. But, boy, it was a journey to get there.
So now I think we'll just kind of have to spoil the twist into the third act at this point to keep talking about it. So, warning to everyone, the spoilers are now wide open.
Okay, spoilers are wide open. Yeah, so how about that act?
I did not like it.
You did? Did you like Dragon Quest XI?
I promise I did like the game.
Everything is like, I was pretty cool on that one. I'm like, really?
No, I think what really dragged it all down for me as a whole was that third act. I'm like, all right, okay. I beat the Morgott. Yeah. It is not Morgott. That is a guy from Elden Ring. whatever the Mortigan, yes,
Mortigan.
evil
Yeah.
wizard. Like it was just a sudden dawn. Like wait, he wasn't the evil that has been built up and talked about. He actually
Yeah.
stopped the evil before I stopped him. Like what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, that felt a little reminiscent of like Final Fantasy IV, where you've got like Zemus out of nowhere.
At the same time, though, at least all that's connected. This guy wasn't even connected to the Great Evil. He's
That's
just
true.
some dick.
Some dude, yeah, just chilling, and it's like, okay, well,
All right. So, oh wait, no. It turns out he was like what? One of the original heroes, the
um,
wizard guy.
Morkant.
Yeah. So I guess he's kind of connected at a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that's kind of interesting. Dragon Quest XI does set up the beginning of Dragon Quest III, right? And so, like, you're kind of telling some stories, and like, there's a interconnectedness across these games, um, and they're really playing with some time stuff. I mean, what is it called? Echoes of an Elusive Age, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, that elusive age is like right here and right now, but it's such an interesting way of synchronizing the timeline that this game
Yeah.
does. I appreciated that, even as somebody that's not a DQ fan, 1 through 11, but I still found that compelling.
One thing I think that made me hate it so much is I do think
Mm.
they did a good job. Like after I forgot his name already. The wizard.
Morkant?
Yeah, I don't know why I forgot his name so quickly.
Yeah.
But, you know, he destroys a bunch of the places. You're fighting the Evil Empire, but everywhere is rebuilding. Things are coming back.
Mm.
And you find out, like, Rebecca, the little mage, was that her name? I'm horrible with names.
Rebecca. Oh no, what was her name? Veronica?
Veronica, yes.
Veronica.
But, you know, she sacrifices herself. You find out that that's
Yes.
basically what saves you from Morkant.
Yeah.
You have all that where the sister has to kind of accept that. She gets her additional powers, yada yada. But then you get to the end of Act 2 when you think everything's all hunky-dory now. Oh, there's this place you can go and we can just send you back in time.
Yeah. So
Really?
that didn't work for you?
No.
Okay.
Like-
okay.
Maybe if it was a more certainty when you did it, but the guy straight tells you, look, if you go back, we could all get wiped. This could go horribly wrong. I have no idea what's about to happen. Alright, let's just sacrifice. This is just sacrificing everything, even though all of the evil's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really like the undoing of sacrifices like that often.
Okay. So
So it felt a little
again,
cheap.
this was a very, for me, very Chrono Trigger-esque callback and stuff. You've played Chrono Trigger, right?
Oh, I love Chrono Trigger, yeah.
Okay, so that redemption of that sacrifice, right? The undoing of Chronos there, how did that feel for you? Was it different, and why?
I think it's a little less cheap because time
Okay.
has been like a core function of Chrono Trigger.
That's
Like
fair.
correcting the
That's
timeline, fixing things, manipulating
Okay.
time to protect the future from lavas. This is just, oh, I guess time's a thing now.
Yeah, and so it does feel like a what is it called? A Deus Ex Machina?
Yeah.
Like yeah.
I'll say it's a
That-
little less intrusive if you played the special edition, which I did play through again on the special, so yeah, I played through this game twice, despite how rough I am on it.
Oh my gosh. What makes it less intrusive in the special edition? Because I've only played the special edition.
It's the inclusion of like those little time creatures that you can actually talk to, do the quest for. So I guess there's
okay.
at least some kind of a time thing going on here right now.
Okay, so they're trying to give you seeds of it. That's interesting.
That is just not existent in the original. Like you'll
Okay,
still
I didn't realize
occasionally see those things around,
Yeah.
but they don't matter until the time thing at the end. So you're spending like 80 hours like, what are these stupid little ghost things?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't find out until you finish Act 2, basically.
Okay.
So at least the special edition, it kind of did something, even if it's only like a little side thing. So the concept of time manipulation to a degree, it at least exists.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me. I did like the Tower of Lost Time and the Timekeeper and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know why I liked it. I'm trying to think through it. I guess it's been a while since I played the game, but that did not bother me. I found that particularly kind of compelling. I thought it was also really compelling to have Serena really go into that grieving and mourning process of Veronica. I felt like that was really, really well done. But the opportunity to bring her back, I also felt pretty decent about it. I don't know.
I'm really stingy about bringing people back to life in a
Yeah,
narrative.
yeah, that's fair.
It can be done well. Like, again, I think Chrono Trigger did it well.
Hmm.
There's a handful of games I'm like, all right, yeah, I can go with this. But sometimes I'm
Yeah,
like, this
yeah.
this just feels like a cop out.
Yeah, I like a good death, you know, for a person's story to be complete and for the remaining characters to grieve and move on with that. I think there's some great storytelling opportunities
Yeah.
there. Again, one of the things that I try to do in my classroom is help students figure out like how these stories relate to real life. And so the
Yeah.
question is always, you can't bring people back in real life, so how do the characters that remain grieving, how does that inform your grief process? How is it
Yeah.
relevant to that? And we always have great conversations. And, I think that I've had a few students that, like you, are like, it just feels cheap and unrelated to like real life and reality to just bring somebody back haphazardly. It's neat from a magical standpoint, but it robs the story of grief. And I'm like, ooh, that's really good. There's something in us that like is compelled to experience grief through characters we've come to love. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I don't know why I like this revival, but if they bring back Aerith, I'm gonna really have some problems. Like that's just a good death.
Look, I'll
Um,
say Final
but
Fantasy VII is another game. Like, I'm
yeah.
not nearly as big on it as a lot of people,
Hmm.
but I agree. It's like that. Just don't bring Aerith back. I'm just
Yeah.
waiting for the remakes to try that. I'm not playing them. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think that it'll happen. I think that they're playing with it, but I think they're going to make the right choice. And we got one more installment to seal the deal, but we'll see.
I gave up trying to play through the first one.
Oh, did you?
Like
Okay.
like 20 minutes in, I'm just listening to the characters, and they just don't stop talking ever. They
Oh,
just will
really?
not shut up. I'm like, I'd rather be listening to Navi from Ocarina right
Oh my
now.
gosh,
I'm like,
really?
just
See,
shut up, people. I don't
oh
care.
man, okay. So like I felt like their banter was a little subdued, but I also played like Final Fantasy 15 is one of my favorite games of all time, right? And so their banter is nonstop. And so 7 was a refreshing break from the nonstop.
15 is the first Final Fantasy main entry I did not play through.
Really? Wow.
Like,
Well,
I
you earned me
played
a
the
dissertation.
I played just the demo.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, at an E3 after party, they didn't know I wasn't allowed to go into. But
Oh,
that's a weird little story. But I was like,
fun.
I just wasn't feeling the combat.
Yeah, that's
It's
fair.
not one
That's
that's
fair.
bad or anything. It's like this just isn't for me.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind
And
of me
I
in Final Fantasy these days.
totally and totally understand that. And a lot of classic Final Fantasy fans are not vibing with the direction they're taking now. I don't know why. I tend to, and yet I still like games like Dragon Quest XI, even though I love Final Fantasy 16 as well, 15 and 16, this more action-oriented combat. So I don't know. I just like a good game with a good story, The
Yeah.
battle system, even Baldur's Gate 3. Um,
I'm waiting until that gets like a 50% sale before I play that one.
you may really love it.
It depends. Like,
I
I'm
don't
weird
know.
because for
No.
some reason it's like those hybrid between like JRPG and your actual tabletop games.
Mm,
Never
mm.
quite vibed with them. I love playing
Really?
some
Okay.
tabletop. I love playing some turn-based RPGs. That
Yeah.
weird middle ground just never clicked with me.
I have played halfway through a campaign of D&D, right? And then in real life, the group faltered, and so we didn't get to continue that. But it was fine. I didn't totally understand the action, bonus action thing, the movement sort of stuff. And that's what Baldur's Gate is. Okay, like somebody said, "Well, you just don't like turn-based." I'm like, Well, if that's turn-based, then I guess I don't like turn-based. But I thought turn-based was Final Fantasy 1 through 10, you know?
Yeah.
And like I like that.
What
Even
edition
active
of
time
Dungeons and
battle.
Dragons was it out of curiosity?
What edition?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't even know.
How long?
Like I was not the dungeon master.
Uh,
Is that what they're called? DM. Yeah,
yeah.
I was just playing, borrowing someone else's dice. I mean, that's where I was. So like I am the most casual of
Yeah.
casual. My friendship with these people brought me in, not Dungeons and Dragons. But I love my character. I had a great time with my character. But
Because they play so differently. It's crazy how much they change
I
from
was a
edition to edition.
Okay, okay. Well, I don't know. I'm assuming it was a more current one, but again, it's the only one that I
Yeah.
have to go off of.
Because I'm
It's very
hearing bonus
reminiscent.
action. I'm like, what systems even had bonus action?
Dude, Baldur's Gate 3 has
Yeah.
them. I'll tell you that. And sometimes, you can dash for a bonus action, and sometimes it's an actual action. I just know I never want to do, like, I never get to do what I want to do when I need to do it. So, like, it's always like you moved 10 steps and you are so winded, so you just need to chill for another round. It's like, I am so mad right now. That's why I had to go play Lies of P. I needed something where I could control and, like, get angry about without dice.
Yeah, about that Act 3, though, for Dragon Quest.
About that Act 3 in Dragon Quest.
I felt like
Um,
once you entered Act 3, like, everyone's character stories were pretty much done.
yeah, they were. They were. I don't know. I liked the wrapping up of the stories, and then I liked how we were getting really focused in on Kalasmos or Kalasmos, I think. I forget.
We'll go with
Calamity.
Plasmos.
Kalasmos, yeah. I liked that. I liked the reveal of Erdwin getting betrayed and killed by his mage companion. That whole deal. Morkent. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a lot of problems with Act 3. I felt like it did a good, interesting job of wrapping things up. It was just long in the tooth by that
Yeah.
point.
I think it's kind of, we went from a villain I actually thought was a bit, at least a little bit interesting with Morkant,
Yeah.
to, oh, the evil descending from the sky thing, okay? Why is it descending from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sky? Evil.
Yeah, I mean
All
that
right.
that really is. I feel like it's such a trope in
Yeah.
JRPGs, right? I mean, you've got Zemus coming down. I've already mentioned that from FF4. It's kind of like in the original Final Fantasy VII, they try to build out Genova a little bit more, but like to really understand what's going on there, it's kind of like you needed a remake, I guess, just because the storytelling was a little
Oh,
scant on Genova. But and then Final Fantasy IX does the same thing. Like there's a big bad at the end. Well, yeah, I mean, I felt like that was it took the typical trope of like, but there's a bigger
yeah.
bad, right? And kind of it didn't really subvert the trope. It just went
Like,
into it.
it's a Dragon Quest story. I think that kind
Yeah,
of amounts to every Dragon Quest final guy is,
yeah,
they're evil. Like that was kind of the
yeah,
case with Morkant too, until that
yeah,
weird twist, but at least it was interesting in like doing stuff.
yeah.
Like he was like trying to subvert people, turn everyone against you. He was clever
Mm,
in planning. This is, I'm a big evil descending from the sky. It's like,
mm-hmm.
yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like a step back from what we were just dealing with.
Yeah. No, I do relate to that. I like so much of what they do here, but at the same time, it does make me wonder, like, how much did that pop for like Dragon Quest fans 1 through 11? Like they've played all the other 10, and like this made perfect sense for a Dragon Quest lover.
Because I think that's who seems to love this game the most.
The
The people
Dragon
who grew
Quest
up with this
diehards.
stuff.
Yes. Well, they're seeing the callbacks and stuff. It's like when I play Final Fantasy 14. It's like, oh, a purple octopus. Ultros. I love that guy. And like, Ultros shows up in the Final Fantasy 15 movie Kingsglaive. And, I show this to my students because I teach a class on 15 at Bama. And they're like, what is the deal with the purple octopus? And I'm like, well, gather around, kids. Let me tell you a tale. And
This is a
it's like,
silly tale.
they're like, why would we know that? I'm like, you wouldn't. It's just for me and for people that played 6. I'm sorry that you had to endure something you didn't understand. So, welcome to class.
Look, you can make that stuff work even without full context. At least, like Final Fantasy IX works entirely well on its own. But
It does.
if
It
you get
does.
the references,
Right.
it's so much nicer.
Right. Like Vivi is a black mage, right? Like, not, you don't have to know what black mages were and that they were in the first eight or first six games. But it's interesting to know that. And it's like, oh, a little nod to me as a diehard fan. This one, I feel like the barrier to entry of knowing Dragon Quest is a little higher to really appreciate the story. Like, I think anybody can appreciate it, but you're really going to get the most out of it if you have some working knowledge of the series, which I did not.
I've had some knowledge because again, I played the DS remakes. I really like
Okay.
5 actually. I thought 5 was
Oh,
great.
really? Did you notice any connections story-wise between the games that you've played in 11? Because I hear that it's connected. I hear that 11 is like a maybe a prequel to 3. I'm not really sure, but
Like the first 3 never got DS remakes, so I never played those.
okay. Well,
But
they're
I
about
hear
to
the same
get big
thing.
remakes. Yeah.
Like it's supposed to be like a star back to like the beginning of the Eldritch
Right.
saga, those first 3 games.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
know Dragon Quest kind of works in sets of 3. Like the first 3 have a very similar mythos. The next 3 use a similar mythos using a lot of similar terms, even if it's not the same world and story. Then the same goes on from 7 to 9. I don't know if 11 fits in at all. Or not
I
11,
don't know.
10. Because that's the
Yeah,
weird
10.
MMO one that we never got.
Right.
Because
Right.
Dragon Quest needed an MMO. I mean, it worked for Final
Companies need
Fantasy,
money.
so.
Companies need money, and so we all need MMOs.
I'm not gonna lie, that choice just threw me off. I mean, I was thrown off by 11
Yeah.
being an MMO too, but I actually did like 11, so.
That's fair. I mean, I love Final Fantasy 14, and it really works for
Yeah.
me. In fact, the new expansion dropped today, so I don't think that every game needs it. And I would have said that Final Fantasy didn't need it, and I would probably still say that Dragon Quest doesn't. But I don't know. I enjoyed World of Warcraft back in the day. I thought it was awesome. Kept me awake during grad school a lot of times. Problem that I had with that game was that the storytelling was not on par with the Dragon Quest and the Final Fantasies. It's fun, but it was not. It was lore that just gave me a sandbox to play in rather than a story to live in. And that is what I look for in a game.
Yeah.
14 seems to fix that. And I don't know about Dragon Quest 10. Maybe it
Yeah.
did.
I did enjoy 14 too. I didn't play
Yeah.
past that or into any of the expansions. I kind of
Oh,
cleared out
okay.
the main plot for the original run. I'm like, this is
Sure.
fun, but I'm just not really a big MMO guy. The one other thing, though, with that Act 3 for Dragon Quest XI that just derailed me so much. I know it's a stupid little thing, but it's when you show up with the sword of pure evil on your back.
Oh,
And you're like,
yes.
that's a weird sword you picked up. Let's not ask any questions about the thing radiating evil energy that's just appeared in your hands in the last 5 minutes since we saw you.
Mm.
Let's not ask any questions. Let's just go.
Yeah, sometimes there are some leaps in this game, and it's to me, it's just kind of a goofy JRPG romp through a world, and I
Yeah.
was okay with that. Yeah,
See, it's one of those things I don't think it'd bother me as much if I was more invested in the story. Like, I
yeah,
realize the more invested you get in certain things, the more easily you can forget some stuff and just forgive stuff like that.
yeah.
Like, I could point out something similar, a similar issue with Chrono Trigger, where Frog just starts traveling through time with you, just doesn't ask any questions,
Mm.
just goes along.
Just goes. Yeah,
I didn't even think about that when I first played that game. It wasn't
yeah,
until
no.
years later when I played through, I'm like, you think he'd have had a question?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
You
Why?
think?
Like, just randomly showing up at the end of time, you think would make him go, what's going on here? Why is existence just gone?
Yeah,
But no questions. We're past the point for questions, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah.
Like, I can see why, just because I think the developers like, look, we don't want to have to re-explain this, so the players have to read through this every time someone new
Right.
joins the party, because you already know how time works. But yeah, it just bothered me when they just didn't acknowledge the sword on your back.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause it wasn't small, and they make sure to point out that it's there.
Right, right.
Like,
That's a bit perplexing
just
for
don't
sure.
say anything about it if you're not going to actually do something with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like I said, there were a couple false endings for me in this game.
I think that's weird because I'm trying to think. I don't think there's actually that much more to dive into on this game.
No, I don't think so. I think that we've pretty much covered it all.
Like, yeah, it's Dragon Quest. It's a simple
Yeah,
story. It's a simple system. It has its own unique twists
yeah,
to keep it from feeling stale compared to all the other games.
yeah. Dragon Quest 11 is a Dragon Quest game. That is what we can say.
Alrighty then. I guess with that, we'll wrap up the episode.
Okay, doke.
And for everyone who eventually watches this when it's out, thanks for coming in. I have no idea what the episode after this will be, but thanks for stopping by.